I'm MarzGurl.
I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
And welcome to episode 83 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover Season 2, Episode 32 of City Hunter, titled, So Long, My Friend, The Last Shot Echoing in My Heart, Part 2.
Bye, Robert.
Yeah, we had just watched Discotech's stream from earlier in the week, and they were talking about this Fist of the North Star release that they have coming out, and they try to warn everybody in the Twitch chat, hey, if you don't want spoilers, look away for the next, 90 seconds.
For the trailer. Oh, not even 90 seconds, but, the first 2 seconds. And the trailer pops up, and it's just...
The first 2 words, Rao dies.
Well, damn! I mean, this manga has been out since, 1984,
Yeah,
so...
so what are you gonna do? So it's kind of the same thing here. Robert dies.
I mean, we told you he's only here for, these 2 episodes, so...
We weren't doing a very good job of hiding it.
I mean, I guess we could have implied he just goes away.
Well, yeah, but I don't feel like lying.
That's fair.
Yeah, he is going away. To the afterlife.
He says he wants to meet Ryo in hell, but, that's where he thinks he's going.
I mean, where he goes, that's up for someone else to decide.
Where he goes, nobody knows. Follow your nose where Robert goes.
I don't want to go where Robert goes.
Not yet. It's going to be a while.
Yeah, let's wait a bit on that. So, to start off, since we don't have any other news, we just jump right back into things with another recap, since this is, in fact, a 2-parter. So, to recap... Robert is Ryo's former partner and friend from America. Los
Angeles, specifically. At some point 5 years ago, Ryo found a bunch of plutonium that for some reason the FBI couldn't find, but Ryo did it. And anyway, so now Robert is here, and Ryo's like, what are you doing here? And Robert's like, don't ask me that question. Hey, what are you doing right now? And they're like, well, I'm supposed to protect this princess, and so Robert, why don't you come join me? And Robert's like, yes, I think I will do exactly that.
And so they guard a princess from a general from the same country that the princess is from, and they're both from a fake land, and the general guy is real sus, and he makes it real obvious he's trying to have the princess killed, because as soon as he leaves a room, the princess is almost killed, and that happens multiple times, and eventually Ryo figures out he's the dude behind it all, and right now, Robert and the princess are on their way up to the mountains for what's basically a trap.
There's supposed to be peace talks, because the princess's country is in turmoil, there's a civil war happening, and she's supposed to be meeting up with these guerrilla warfare dudes to try and work this out, and they're like, Japan, yes, let's do this in Japan, it's neutral territory, so Robert is driving the princess up to this villa where they're supposed to do these peace talks, except Ryo has found out, oh no, the villa is gonna be where everybody dies because there's gonna be an explosion. The plan is to kill the princess in an explosion at the villa, so they gotta go drive there real fast, both Ryo and Kaori, in Kaori's car, and Robert has Ryo's car for some reason, he's got the Mini Cooper. Both these cars are all shot up, by the way, but that's what brings us to this week's episode where Ryo is trying to drive to the villa
in Kaori's car that was in fact shot up last week, but guess what? No, they're not.
I love how they're complaining, oh no, we'll never make it to the villa in time. Look at all this traffic. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you wouldn't have had to worry about all this traffic if you hadn't stopped to replace both the front and back windows of the car.
Because mind you, from the end of last week's episode to the beginning of this week's episode, no time has passed.
Right.
We're just picking up the story where we left off. So, Ryo and Kaori were driving a shot-up car. We even see the shot-up car because they show the freeze frame from last week's episode.
Right at the end of the episode, yeah.
And so we're starting off this week, and magically, both the front and back windows have been replaced.
Ryo must have a guy. He's gotta have a guy by this point, right? For as much as the Mini Cooper alone gets blown up, if he decides not to completely replace his Mini Cooper, then he's gotta have a guy.
Or Sunrise just plain forgot.
Or they just forgot. That's the actual answer. I say that every time, that's the real answer. Sunrise just doesn't care, or they've forgotten, something like that. But, if we would like to actually explain this, what did they do? They replaced the windows, and now they're like, ah, shit, we're late.
If you remember all the way back in Grand Theft Auto 2, Not Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto 2, the top-down isometric view, the way you would very quickly get your car fixed.
Right.
That's what we're talking about here. Mind you, I preferred Grand Theft Auto 2. I liked it that way, but I'm an old head for that.
I also didn't play a lot of Grand Theft Auto, so it doesn't really matter to me.
And so Ryo and Cowdy are having to haul ass through traffic, and Ryo is just dodging cars left and right. He's juking. He's trying to get through every little spot that he sees on the highway. And he's like, okay, we don't have enough room to get through some of these cars. I have to pop the car, the Fiat, on two wheels on the driver's side and squeeze through these two trucks.
How does he do that? How do you do that without a ramp?
Technically, you do need a ramp. I didn't see him use one.
He just did this like it was a motorcycle or something. Like,
a
oh,
skateboard.
we just leaned really hard to the left. That's it. That's all he did, and he tilted the car in between two trucks, one of which has the comedy crow painted along the side of it as they drive by.
Because this is a joke.
This is very much a joke. I mean, Cowry's screaming and crying, but this is a joke because it's funny to make her a little bit scared, I guess.
I mean, it's not too dissimilar from how I drive and how you complain about how I drive.
You've never tilted the car on both left wheels before.
I'm working on it. So as they're trying to make it up to the mountain... oh no, they'll be coming up the mountain by 11. Ryo and Cowdy are on their way up there. However, Robert is already up there with the princess, and they're saying, all right, let's not get out of the car just yet. We gotta wait for everybody else to show up. Otherwise, like, we're too early to the party and somebody could very easily pick you off.
Which, you know, not a bad plan. But unfortunately, there's still the dudes who are out there trying to assassinate her, and they're watching her.
The black hat guys.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call them the black hat crew.
And they're like, oh no, they're being too cautious about this. Well, that's fine, because they're gonna have to go inside for these peace talks anyway, eventually, and we're just gonna blow this place up at 11. Like, that's the plan. At 11 o'clock, we're blowing the place up. Nobody's gotta worry.
So after a couple of minutes, this van full of the gorillas shows up, and it's only 3 dudes. Their leader with a very nice beard, and then his 2 lackeys, who all get named, weirdly enough.
They're not especially important people, but these guys have names.
So we have their leader, Gauss, and 2 grunts named Gali and Moron.
But yeah, Moran. And here's what's funny about that, because, I mean, aside from, duh, I am Moron. And mind you, this is spelled M-O-R-A-N. So it's not really like, it's not moron, it's just Moran.
Moron. Like, Moron is the last name.
Yeah, maybe you can't really tell the difference in my pronunciation, because, like, that's just how Japanese works. But the problem is that his name comes up twice in this episode, and the first time it's spelled M-O-R-A-N, and the second time it's spelled M-O-L-A-N. But both are pronounced the same way, but consistency, Discotech, is all I'm asking.
Where was the QC, Discotech? That's what we're asking.
I don't know.
So the princess is like, okay, good to see you guys. Glad you're all here for peace. Meet Robert. He's with me.
Robert, why don't you say a few words? And Robert's like, I don't like you. And they're like, hey, he doesn't like us. Well, no, of course not. She's had a bunch of assassination attempts all in the last day, so maybe you can understand why I'm a little bit hesitant to like anybody right now.
But the princess realizes he's being a little too antagonistic, and she's like, all right, cool your jets, Robert. You know, stay to the side. Let the grown-ups talk. We got this.
All right, fine. He agrees.
And similarly, the gorillas are like, all right, we'll be watching you too, but we can't go in just yet. There's still one more person we gotta wait for. Where's Marukito at? And mind you, Marukito's been watching them up on the mountain with the black hat guys this whole time, and at the mention of his name, he's like, oh crap.
Oh, right, I'm supposed to be down there. Whoops.
And so he just gets in his car, goes around the corner, and drives up like, hey, sorry I'm late, traffic, lol. And it's like, but you didn't come from the same direction as everybody else?
You're not fooling anyone, sir.
You're really bad at this.
All right, well, let's get on in there. And so he's just got to keep checking his watch to make sure I'm not going to be in this building when it blows up, am I?
Because currently it's 10:25, so Ryo and Cowdy have about 35 minutes to get there.
Right.
And so the peace talks begin, and it seems to be going pretty good. And it's real, like, it reminds me of the Lego movie when they're talking about business later on. Business, papers, papers, and you see Gauss just looking at papers like, oh, that looks about right.
Who knows what the problems this country was having were? We will never know. We're never gonna know. It's just things were bad, but I think we're starting to work this shit out. You know, it's only been, what, like a decade that this war has been going on, and I think we're really gonna straighten it out this time.
We're gonna straighten it out in half an hour, plus commercials.
So Robert, though, has decided, well, you guys don't need me. I think I'm gonna go upstairs and just take a nap. He leaves. He walks out of the room.
And then at the exact same moment, Marukito's like, oh, I also have to leave the room because reasons that have nothing to do with it being almost 11. I'll be right back.
I mean, he blames it on he needs to make a phone call. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, sure, man. Go. Do whatever you gotta do.
So, like, enough time has passed. It's just about 11. And Ryo's been hauling ass. Like, I'm worried about the shocks on Coyote's car by this point.
Right.
Because he's, like, jumping curbs, catching serious air. They finally get to the villa and, like, drift out almost into the Akita drift, but it's the wrong angle.
There's only, like, a couple minutes left.
Not even, like, there's, like,
before
1 minute
time.
left.
They bust down the door and they're like, shit, get the fuck out of here. Come on, everybody go. Just get the fuck out. Oh my god.
Pork chop sandwiches.
Pork chop sandwiches.
And everybody has to run. And Ryo's like, okay, Coyote, take the princess. I gotta go find Rob. And it's like, Ryo, remember, you're the person who has to take care of the princess. Like, you're putting a lot of this on Coyote this week. Like, I started counting. There's no less than 5 times that the phrase in Japanese, Coyote, Tanomu, is used here in this episode. Coyote, I'm leaving this to you, or I'm counting.
Take care of this. Like, I need to go do something else. You handle this situation. And every time Coyote's like, where are you going?
I wonder a lot about this episode, because there's a thing about this episode. If there is a theme to this episode, it's not just that Robert's an important character. No, forget that. It's repetition. There's so much of this episode that is just repeated things over and over again, and the show hoping you don't catch that animation's being reused, that phrases are being reused, that music is being reused.
I felt like they had too much material for a one-parter, but not enough material for a two-parter. So they had to figure out, well, we can't actually cut any of the story we actually want to tell, so we might need to pad this out a little bit.
Well, it also feels like somebody screwed up somewhere in production, because we started noticing there's this one...
It's this really French-sounding
track.
Yeah,
this French-sounding track.
And it's been playing throughout the show since, I'm pretty sure, episode 1. It's been in this series.
But we don't hear it that often.
You hear, like, this accordion... Like,
it sounds very French. French art film.
It's French, but also art film, but also very stressful.
Well, I don't think it's I just think it's annoying.
It is
especially
annoying.
Here, because this is the first time they're going to do it right now. They use the song no less than 5 times in the same show. They don't even use the Mokkori song that much.
Honestly, they don't use the Mokkori song enough.
I agree.
But that having been said, yeah, this track comes up over and over again. You think, oh, we've resolved that situation. Oh, a new tense situation has now come up. The French song comes in here. Why are you doing that?
Ryo's returning fire. Are we gonna hear footsteps? No. Like, what? What's going on?
Accordion.
Oh no, something terrible has happened. Are we gonna hear Baby I Want Your Love? Like, what are you doing, Sunrise? You have other songs. Where they at?
I don't know. Somebody was just like, man, I do not feel like picking the soundtrack this week. We're out of time. We just gotta lay down the first thing we've got in front of us.
So the clock finally strikes 11, and the Black Hat guys out on the hill are like, all right, let's push down on this Yosemite Sam Acme plunger we've got. And the whole place goes up.
Shabams! Everything's on fire. Ryo is still in that house. He's still in that building, and he's screaming, Robert! Robert!
Marco!
Robert? He does not return with Robert. He comes out looking like a badass walking through fire, but that does not include with Robert. What really gets me, though, is that he comes out and he tells Kaori he didn't make it. And I'm like, but how do you know that? You didn't find a body. You just did not find a body. He's not in there.
Like, you made the assumption that he died. Also, you're, like, incredibly okay. There's no soot on you. There's no singed hair. Like, you are fine. How did you do that?
He's Ryo.
What does that even mean?
Shh.
Okay, all right. Now, there's one important thing that Ryo did manage to see, and it's that while he was up on the second floor looking around for Robert, he managed to look out the window just as he saw Marukido running away. So, even further, even though we've already had it confirmed at the end of last week's episode, and also they were making it painfully obvious, now Ryo has proof of, it was him.
Yes!
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
Oh my god, I mean, this is taking way too long.
Yeah, they're kind of driving this point home a little too hard, which again makes me wonder if you're right and they didn't have too much to work with for one episode.
Too much to work with for one, not really enough for two, but very dedicated to like, oh my god, we really love this Robert story. We gotta get this out here.
So Marukido meets back up with the Black Hat gang, and he's like, damn it, that guy interfered again. You guys suck.
Oh, sorry.
And they're like, well, we're gonna do this. You hired us. We don't want to be thought of as idiots or incompetent.
Well, too bad. You're not doing it anymore. Just forget it.
Marukido out. And he just leaves.
So he's got his own driver, right?
Yeah, he's got his own car and his own driver.
It's a totally different driver. So he gets in his car and yeah, he takes off. But who's Ryo going at? He's going specifically after, again, these dudes in the black hats first, right?
Well, we have to figure out where they are, because at current, nobody knows where the Black Hats are just yet. So everybody's camped around the van that the gorillas showed up in just to make sure everybody's okay. And the princess is finally like, oh, so it was the general this whole time. Yes, thank you for catching up with everybody. And the gorillas are actually sympathetic. We knew that guy was an asshole. Hey, when we get back to the country, now that everything's cool, we'll help you patch everything back up and get rid of all this corruption.
Well, I'm really glad this has caused them to really just start working together.
But you know what doesn't help peace talks? Uzis.
Gunfire? Yeah, Uzis and gunfire. Because we got them!
Yeah, right here. So the Black Hats finally show themselves, and they've all got Uzis, and they just start raining bullets down on everybody below.
And Ryo's like, hey, you! Fuck you! He goes on up there.
Well, not yet exactly, because first thing he's got to do is protect the princess. So he ducks and rolls, takes care of the princess. 2 out of 3 of the gorillas get hit.
Yeah, Molon is one of them.
And Gauss.
Because this is where, oh yeah, now his name is Molon.
So again, once Ryo has made sure, okay, the princess is okay, I'm not so worried about the gorilla guys, Kaori Tanamu!
Again, alright, now he's got to go up there. He's got to start taking dudes out. And he does. He's just firing away, and we're actually seeing blood splatter. Like, it's not a lot, but it's there.
So what's cool about this is Ryo doesn't go running up the hill that they're on. Right? Because basically, the Black Hats have the high ground right now. And Ryo could, because we've seen he's pretty fast, he could just run up that hill.
He instead gets into the Mini Cooper, which, by the way, still very shot up from last week. But I guess it still drives. He's about to put this car through a ton of shit for the remainder of this episode. Drives up a cliff, through,
through the forest.
It just up through dirt and trees and stuff. Once he gets up to them, he has not stopped the car. The car is still moving. He just jumps and tucks and rolls while the car is still like
he puts it into a drift so he can do a tuck and roll.
Who knows where that car is gonna go? You would think, it's gonna crash into something, but actually he's gonna still get use out of this car a little bit later. So I guess it's fine, whatever.
But he does this badass tuck and roll and starts taking all these dudes out. He takes 2 of them out in the shoulder, and then he gets main Black Hat dude in the chest, right in the abdomen area. That's a kill shot.
Right, exactly. But, we get to have a last conversation with this guy.
And the thing is, right here, as Ryo's approaching the last guy, the leader, who we don't know what his name is right here, his hair looked really 80s.
Ryo is very much looking like Eric from The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a difference of 1 year. So yeah, it's just plain 80s looking hair.
And so Ryo's still got his gun drawn, and he's asking the leader of the Black Hats, hey, where's your boss? Where's Marukido at? And the dude's like, oh, he left.
Yeah, he went that away, man.
Thanks, kid.
Thanks, kid. As the kid dies. Although, kid, in the black hat, is like, now wait a minute. Before I die, who are you?
Well, see, the thing about it is the subs say, who are you? But phrasing-wise in Japanese, he says, nanimono da.
Okay, this is another one of these situations where I think you're sticking on it a little harder than you need to. Because, yes, at its incredibly most literal, nanimono is what thing, okay? If we're talking about being, extremely, extraordinarily literal. Alright, sure. what thing, not who.
Right. Because the thing about it is, the thing he's saying to Ryo as he's dying is, how was this possible? You blew through us like it was nothing. And going with the literal phrasing is, just what are you?
Right. It's more literally like, what are you? But I see it so often translated just as who are you? Because we so rarely say, what are you? Unless you're Batman, okay?
Yeah.
Unless you're Batman, we don't really say, what are you?
I mean, it's kind of the same thing of like, we just tried to do all this stuff. We tried to kill you. You didn't go down. It makes perfect sense right there to ask, what are you?
I understand what you're saying. It's just, this is not an uncommon translation. So, I understand why we're here. But yes, I guess it is an interesting thing to notate.
And Ryo just tells them all cool, I'm Ryo Saiba, the city hunter. And then he just walks away and doesn't look at him anymore.
And as the guy is dying, he's like, oh, so you were City Hunter. And I'm just thinking, man, so you guys knew he was out here and you just didn't think, wonder if we're going to run into City Hunter while we're out here.
Where does City Hunter work again? Shinjuku? And where's the princess holed up right now? Shinjuku? Huh, coincidence. Oh, and she's got bodyguards? One of them's here from Japan. Where's he from? Shinjuku? Huh, weird.
Anyway, we're going to kill the princess now. Like, that's just how their thought process went. And then this guy keels over and dies.
It's just really funny that he dies right before the eye catch. Well, like, he slumps over.
He slumps over and kind of...
It's unintentionally funny.
It is. But oftentimes when the bumper comes in, when the eye catch drops in with this really loud music, it is often just funnier than it's supposed to be.
So Ryo goes back to see, okay, everybody who's shot, are you okay? Are you being patched up? Are you being attended to? Is Kaori meeting all of your needs because I've left all of you in her care to be taken care of medically?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Alright, Kaori Tonomu.
Just keep doing what you're doing, I guess. So Ryo's intention is to get back into the Mini Cooper, which I guess he's now driven back down the cliff. And he's about to go after this stupid general guy being driven away by his driver in his car. But the princess is like, no, wait! I'm gonna get that stupid son of a bitch. This cowardly motherfucker.
Oh, wait, Kaylin, you're missing something.
What?
The French music.
Oh, no, please. No, we don't need to... We do not need another reprisal of this, and yet
but
here
we're doing it again. See, this is what I'm saying. It's the same two beats repeated for the whole episode. And so, yeah, the princess gets in the car with Ryo, and we get a nice little bit of animation of, like, their hair being blown in the wind because, you know, Ryo doesn't have windows right now.
Yeah, they remembered that this car doesn't have windows. They're driving on up there, and the princess is very convinced, I'm gonna go have a talk with this cowardly bastard.
So as they're in the car, trying to follow the trail of Marukido's car, the princess is asking Ryo, so Robert, he meant a lot to you, like more than just a regular partner, right? And then Ryo's like, guess it's time for a flashback. 5 years ago, when I was potentially a common writer.
We got the blur fade into the 5 years ago flashback, and so he's driving in the United States somewhere in general. Because remember, they said last week he helped out in Los Angeles. This is clearly not Los Angeles. I'm gonna assume...
This looks like Arizona.
I'm gonna assume he took the plutonium from a bunch of guys in Arizona, and then was trying to make sure it got to Los Angeles. Look, I don't know. I'm having to fill in the gaps myself.
We don't even know. Look, all we do know is that in his flashback, he's riding a dirt bike while being chased by an attack helicopter.
Just in the middle of the desert, surrounded by all these mesas, okay? Just really big mountainous...
Rock plateaus.
Alright? And he's being chased by a helicopter.
He's got no more bullets.
He's out of ammo, but the helicopter isn't, and the helicopter is shooting at him, and it clips him in the shoulder. And he's like, oh no, what am I gonna do now? They got me. Except, shabams! The helicopter blows up because another helicopter showed up. And it's Robert, and Robert is piloting the helicopter, and he gives Ryo a thumbs up.
He looks like he just jumped out of an episode of G.I. Joe. Which, did Toei work on G.I. Joe?
Wait a minute, I'll go check. Yes.
So maybe that is a thing. Because, yeah, it looks just like a toy commercial for G.I. Joe. The new Robert Harrison attack helicopter.
G.I.
Joe. Ryo, City Hunter sold separately. And so Ryo ends his flashback with, look, there's two things a man is meant to do. He's meant to love women, and he's meant to help out his bros. And I'm all out of women to love.
It's actually the opposite, and I couldn't help my bro.
Oh, no, you're right.
But the other way is funnier.
Yeah, so let's just say it was that.
Anyway, so there's only one way I can help Robert now, and I'm just gonna go and do a murder.
I'm gonna send this son of a bitch to hell. And so they catch up to the general in his car, because he's not really trying that hard to get away. He's just under the assumption that everything else would have been taken care of.
I don't know why he assumed that. Clearly, nothing else went the way he thought it was going to go.
And so he looks behind him, he sees the beat-up Mini chasing him, and he just kind of exclaims out to his driver, damn, Masada must have failed. And
Wait,
I'm over here.
who?
Who the hell's Masada? We are just hearing about this man. Who is Masada?
So, just from context clues, we have to be like, well, he was already pissed about the dudes in the black hats failing, so it's gotta be the only guy he ever talked to in that group.
The most Leiji Matsumotoist of the guys.
So it's gotta be the guy that just got shot in the chest by Ryo and keeled over and...
So we're assuming that was Masada. He was named posthumously.
That's so sad.
So we have a quick little chase here on the mountainside, and at least Marukito had some sense to tell his driver, hey, they're right there next to us on the outside.
Just ram them.
Ram them.
Just run them off the road. And the car pushes Ryo and the Mini Cooper through the guardrail and then off the side of the edge of the mountain. But somehow, Ryo, he's getting a Mini Cooper to do so much more than a Mini Cooper should be able to do.
Like Lupin's car has done this stuff on the side of a mountain, right?
Right. So, mind you, it's not, completely sideways. I understand,
He's at less than a 45-degree incline, I think.
But it's still really kind of rocky and turbulent, and I'm just like, oh, this car, if you manage to get it back up the hill, I don't see you doing it. I don't see you doing it, but somehow you've done it. But actually, first, he tries to keep up alongside them along the edge of the mountain, and then kind of veers off again into the forest, where they reuse animation of going through the trees and stuff. And he just goes real fast. He just tears through this forest as if it's not even there, and then pulls himself back up the mountain in front of the general in his car. He's just gone so much faster, and here I am why would the general think, oh man, I'm getting pursued? Let's just go at a leisurely pace. Now that we think we've pushed this guy off the mountain, did you not understand that every single step of the way, this plan has gone horrifically wrong for you?
So Ryo does this thing that happened a lot in the 80s in the Showa era, where he's made sure to pull up far enough ahead of the car that he just gets out in the middle of the road and waits for the general to see him. You see it there in episode 1 of Kamen Rider, and they remake it there in Shin Kamen Rider. Just, he's waiting there in the middle of the road, come at me, bro.
And then they see him, and they don't really, do a lot of slowing down.
And they don't try to run him over either. That's the weird part. They're like, I wonder what he's gonna do. And so, Ryo has the time to pull his gun, take out one of the front end tires, and then they just crash into the mountain that they're next to.
The car's smoking, and the general just has to climb on out. Yeah, it's over, bro.
And so Ryo disarms the driver from a distance. That dude takes off, because he's like, nah, screw this. And so it's just the general there on the side of the road.
And so Ryo is like, I think I'm gonna murder you now for killing Robert. Killing Robert, huh? General thinks this is very funny. Robert's not dead, you moron. What do you mean Robert's not dead? Hey, what's that gunshot?
And so right as the general is saying this, Ryo finally picks up his super hearing oh yeah, I have that ability. And it's a second too late as a shot rings out and the princess gets hit in the chest.
Through the back, it's coming from up the side of the mountain behind her.
Yeah, it's still from the high ground, so from a very decent sniper's vantage point. And Ryo's like, shit, I should have seen this coming.
You know what? He probably should have.
And now, mind you, while all this happens, we've got the music playing still again. The stupid French music. And
the stupid accordion. I wish it would just go away.
And the general here is trying to gloat haha, you failed, City Hunter. I made sure that everything happened just according to plot, and then a burst of gunfire.
Blah, 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 blah. Oh, this guy is just obliterated by bullets. Just absolutely annihilated. There's blood everywhere out of this guy. This man is very, very dead.
Because Gauss and the other gorillas, I guess, are okay enough to get in their van, and they gave chase. They saw that something was going down in the middle of the road. They didn't wait. Gauss just opened up the side door, like, light them up. Pa, 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 pa. And they have killed the general.
Yay! All right. I think we've solved war.
Yay! Alrighty! And you see his lifeless body, Showa style, fall off the cliff like, oh, I'm dead. And so they catch up. They see that the princess is hurt there on the ground. She's been shot. And I'm going to give you 3 guesses as to what Rio's going to say right now.
Let's go get ice cream.
Nope.
Damn.
Got 2 more.
Let's get a sandwich.
Nope. 1 more.
Who shot Mr. Burns?
Nope. Kaori Tonomu! Again, he leaves the shot princess with Kaori so he can go run off and do something else.
Isn't this your job, sir?
Like, I don't know whether to look at this as a positive thing. Like, wow, you're being really trusting of Kaori this week, Rio. That's so great that you respect her as a partner now. Or, man, you're being lazy this week, Rio.
But now, this time at least, he didn't drive the Mini Cooper up a mountain through the trees to go find Robert.
No, he goes into where he can clearly tell was the sniper's vantage point, and he finds the shell casing that was left on the ground, and I guess you kind of figure, oh, I know what gun this belongs to.
Oh, I'm sure the shell casing was warm. Like,
That too.
it had to have been warm, too.
Like, it's been, like, what, less than a minute or 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would still be warm. And so he walks up to this nice little lake in the forest, very scenic.
Very serene, yeah, for sure.
And he just, it's a nice, peaceful, serene scene that we have here. And Rio just ruins it by yelling out, "Get your ass out here, Robert! I know it was you!"
Yeah, it was me. You know why it was me? Because I had a contract with the general the whole time to kill the princess. And so, I just kind of went along with you until it was time for me to do that.
They have this really quick argument between the two of them that amounts to Rio being like, "You're a dick!" But Rio's asking Robert, how could you agree to do something like this? I thought you were better than this. And Robert's telling him, man, I can't believe you're so naive. This is about the money. And Rio, surprisingly, out of character, says, all right, then, you can go. And Robert's like, okay, great. I'm just gonna leave now, having admitted that I agreed to do all of this stuff. Wait, who's that in the bush?
It's really weird how Kaori has dragged the princess up the side of this mountain. I realize clearly the princess is alive. And so we're assuming, and they say out loud, I guess she was wearing a bulletproof vest. We don't really see proof of that, but that's just what we're being told. She had a bulletproof vest on this whole time. But regardless, she still just got shot. And we have now dragged her up the side of the mountain so that Robert can see she's still alive. And I feel like it might have been smarter to just let her keep pretending she was dead so that Robert could think, oh, well, I guess my job was done. But now Robert sees, guess she's alive, which means I still have work to do, and I still have to kill her. And Rio's like, no, you don't, you moron.
No, moron's the other guy.
The guy you've got a contract with just got shot the shit up. You do not have a contract with that man anymore.
And Robert's over here arguing semantics like, no, technically speaking, if my target is still alive, even though the contract holder is dead, I still have to fulfill this contract. Now you must fight.
Robert, I think you're being particularly anal about this.
And so we're heading into a duel right now. It's a very tense scene. We need some really good cinematic music playing. It's that damn French song again. I am so sick of this song. This is like the 5th time it's played in 20 minutes. I can't believe them.
So Robert removes the sight off of his gun, and he's like, all right, I'm going to throw it over here into the lake. And as soon as it hits the water, that's when we're going to shoot.
And Rio's like, all right, fine.
So he throws it up into the air, and it's taking a really long time for it to come back down to the ground. And I'm just reminded of Airplane 2.
Airplane 2, the sequel.
The sequel. And there's a bomb on the plane, and the bomber has the bomb in a briefcase, and he gets really mad, and he throws the briefcase up into the air. Or really, he's tapping tackled, and it kind of flies up into the air.
Yeah, Stryker tackles him, and it flies up into the air.
At which point, cinematically, it just goes slow-mo, and it's just in the air forever, and comedically, we cut to some other guy who's looking at it up in the air, and then looks back down at his watch, and then looks back up in the air. Like, it's just taking forever for this thing to come back down to Earth.
Right, exactly.
And that is exactly what is happening here in this scene, with this sight off of this gun taking forever to hit the lake.
But finally, it drops in, and we see that Robert has to compensate because the weight of his gun has just changed because he removed the sight, so he's like a second slower than Ryo.
But also, that means Robert's not that good.
Well, it means that in the heat of the moment, he forgot something super important.
That's a pretty big flaw for a guy who's supposedly, like, if Ryo is the best in Japan...
And Robert's the best in America?
Robert's the #1 sweeper in America, like, they should be about even, but this was a really stupid mistake.
And it's funny that Cowdy's like, I should get in there and talk to them before they shoot. And one of the other soldiers just kind of puts his hand on her shoulder. He's like, nah, someone's gonna die. We're just gonna watch. But they get their shots off, and Ryo just gets grazed on his arm.
Whereas Robert is shot in the gut.
Yeah, he's bleeding out. There is blood on his nice tailored jacket.
And Ryo's gonna run over like, no, Robert, oh no, I killed you, even though that was the intention of a duel. Well, he's not quite dead yet, but he's about to be.
And Robert's telling him, oh, my bad. I forgot that I changed the weight of my weapon before I used it. I'm such a dumbass. You're the best, Ryo. I'll see you in hell.
And now everyone is very sad, especially Ryo. Like, apparently, we cut to a moment where I guess the peace talks have just worked out fine. We're at the airport, the princess is gonna go back to Fake Land, and Kaori's the one seeing her off, and Ryo legitimately is not even there this time. He's not doing one of those cute things where he says, oh, I'm not gonna be there, but actually he's like hiding on the roof nearby or something.
Or he's around the corner.
No, he's not there. He's too sad. He's actually genuinely, like, really sad, and I gotta go mope somewhere.
Well, yeah, because even the princess is, like, as she's, hanging out the door of the plane, because you used to be able to do that, she's remarking, my wound will heal. My broken ribs from the gunshot will heal, but Ryo's never gonna heal from this.
He's just got a broken heart, and he's gonna have a broken heart forever.
And
my God.
That's how they're treating it. Like, he's out there at the same dock that we were at the beginning of last week's episode, where he met up with Robert again. He looks solemnly at the shell casing, he just tosses it into the water, and there's that whole Japanese thing, there's the reflection of Robert's face in the water.
It's not like in the water, it's just like, it's hanging in the air.
Superimposed.
Yeah, just very artistically. And Robert's face is drawn so sad. He's not even really there, but he's so sad.
Like, if you could put words to his face, it would just be like, shit, man.
I'm so sad I'm dead. This really shouldn't have happened this way.
This sucks.
I kinda didn't expect this.
We get the freeze frame right there of Ryo looking solemn, Robert's ghost looking solemn, and that's the end of this two-parter.
Well, cool. Alright, so Robert is perhaps less important here than you might imagine, but when he carries over into the manga, he's increasingly important when he becomes Mick Angel.
Where the idea of the character is morphed into Mick Angel, yes.
I still don't understand why we needed to change his name, because they really are basically the same character. We've just embellished on him a bit.
Now, that's not to say that we're not going to have other episodes here in the anime that won't tie back to this episode. There's going to be another two-parter later. That ties back to these episodes. But as far as the manga goes, I want to say that the anime version, that Robert had it easier than Mick it did in the manga.
You say that, but Mick Angel doesn't die in the manga.
I mean, that is a plus.
But he does go through some shit. Like, when things don't work out with, like, because Mick Angel's thing is that he's contracted to kill Ryo.
Specifically, yeah.
And that doesn't work out. And also, he's in love with Kaori, but that doesn't work out. So he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go. So he tries to get on a plane, and then the plane, like,
blows
it
up,
blows
right?
up or it crashes or something, and then he's kidnapped by Shin Kaibara, who's Ryo's adoptive dad.
Who's going to show up in this Angel Dust movie.
He's going to show up in this Angel Dust movie, and by the way, Angel Dust! That's a thing.
So
Nick Angel's going to get all hopped up on Angel Dust, and he's going to basically just be this berserker rage guy coming after Ryo again.
But eventually he got better.
But then he gets better, and then he gets nursed back to health by the woman from the beginning of the series who had the bees that could have killed mankind.
From like episode 2 or 3.
Yeah.
No, I think it was episode 2. That woman is way more important, and we never see her again in the anime.
Yeah. So clearly the anime is trying to do a bunch of really weird shit because the manga, at this point in time in the anime's creation, is not over.
Yeah, it's still ongoing.
So but I really feel like that's also part of the reason why City Hunter as an anime just kind of stops. We don't go nearly to the dramatic extent, to the well-concluded ending that the manga does. Because, like, they never got there. They just never got there.
Which is nice depending on how you look at it, of like, oh, the adventures of Kaori and Ryo could just go on, which is kind of where we're at now, getting these new movies. But I do like the idea of Japanese storytelling in that they're not afraid to end a story.
That's true.
Because there's too many shows that I've watched that went on well past their due date.
Well, maybe that's also why Hojo was like, well, City Hunter should end, but what if I wanted to continue it? And then he did Angel Heart.
Yeah,
which is
NAU.
which is just more City Hunter, except what if this is the exact moment where we split off into an alternate timeline where Kaori dies and we put her heart into the body of another person.
See, this is Hojo not knowing that we would eventually turn on the Hadron Collider, and that's the universe that was created.
The Hadron Collider?
Hadron Collider,
yeah.
That's what I meant. And that's the universe that Angel Heart lives in.
The heart lives in a different body entirely. We're getting way off topic of this particular episode, but I think it does kind of tie in though because this episode created origins of things that you would see later in the manga. They just haven't been written yet.
Exactly. And so next week's episode, it's a fun little two-parter. We're gonna have a bunch of biker gangs, and we got Umibozu back, so that's always a plus.
Back. Yeah, there was some really good artwork right at the end of this stinger for the next episode, this episode preview.
Yeah, it looked like it could have been a movie poster.
It's real good.
But yeah, Ryo's gonna have to help out another motorcycle princess or something like that.
I don't know. I can't
think
remember.
the Yakuza's involved. It's a pretty safe bet that the Yakuza's involved. And so that'll be more hijinks heavy because these last two episodes were pretty dark. There was no assault this week.
Yay! All right. Ryo, you did it again. Yay!
That's the unfortunate part, is he can only afford to not assault somebody when something terrible is happening around him.
Oh. You can only praise him when he's sad.
Oh, wow. That's awful.
Very depressing.
So, yeah, you'll have that to look forward to, huh?
So come back next time when we cover the 33rd episode of City Hunter 2, Mokkori Contract, The Strange Journey of Ryo and a Bad Girl, Part 1.
And if you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on Twitter for now. I'm at JoshKnightFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 83rd episode of MokkoriPlay. And if you don't come back next episode, Josh is gonna watch me become a bad girl.
No, I'm not. I'm going to watch you play Final Fantasy 16.
That's probably more accurate.